Imagine a school where young children get the best of exposure from various walks of life, from music and dance to films and folk arts, where there are dedicated teachers guiding them in each subject and being their mentor and friend throughout their student lives and beyond, where there is access to literature in their own mother tongue, to the most popular authors from across the world, comics to fiction to spirituality and beyond, where teachers focus on their physical fitness as well, through yoga, hiking, sports and more, and a fun-filled atmosphere all year round. And to top it all, these life experiences are being given to children who may lack social and economic privileges otherwise, at a small fraction of the costs that this would entail elsewhere. That's the kind of institution, a school by the name Vinayaka Vidyalaya, that my friend and his family have founded and are running in our own Bengaluru over the last 25 years. My guest today, Kaveri, is a dear friend, an engineer turned teacher, a person whose interests and passions find no boundaries. Music, theatre, sports, literature, and many things more. And sure enough, all his interests have found their right home in this school, where he teaches to learn and learns to teach. This is Life Unbounded, a series of conversations and stories of creators, achievers, and leaders from all walks of life. People who have made a meaningful difference to life and the society around them. And I'm your host, Shashikiran.
मुद्दतों से आरज़ू थी जिंदगी में कोई आए सुनी सुनी जिंदगी में कोई शम्मा झिलमिलाए वो जो आए तो रोशन ज़माना हो गया एक हसीन शाम को दिल मेरा खो गया पहले अपना हुआ करता था अब किसी का हो गया एक हसीन शाम को दिल मेरा खो गया
Amazing. Mohammad Rafi?
Mohammad Rafi, yes. It doesn't feature in the primary list of Rafi hits, but of course it's a very
I
good
love
song and one of my personal favorites too.
Finally, we are getting to start this. Thanks for being the first guest on this podcast channel. So, let's get started with the journey of this school. Where is it? What is it doing? Who does it cater to? What has been the journey? I want you to talk about all of that. I know a little bit, but I think it's far more interesting when it comes out of you.
The school, in fact, was the dream child of my father. He hailed from one of the poorest hamlets of Gulbarga. He wanted to start a school which would cater to anybody and everybody. Primarily the ones who cannot otherwise afford good education at a low cost. Of course, he worked as a police officer.
And he served in the police for a long time?
Quite a long period, yes. He retired as the Assistant Commissioner of Police. But before he joined the police services, he did work as a teacher too.
So that's where the dream was born?
Yes.
Okay.
The teacher in him always wanted to do something in this field. We initially started in a different place and then shifted to this place. We started in 1990 and in 1996 we moved to this place, Shri Vinayaka Vidyalaya. And when we started, I think we started with about 3 students, then moved to 8, 9, 10. So once we moved to this place, we had about 20 odd students. So it was a big challenge then to even think of continuing with the idea of the school.
And you had teachers coming in, or was it one person doing all that stuff?
No, we had teachers. We had appointed teachers. Principally, it was run by our headmistress then, Madam Nirmala.
Okay.
And it was a challenge for many years until about 2002. Slowly we moved from 20 to 30, 40, 50 and by the beginning of 2000 we had about 100.
Beginning of 2000, okay.
2100.
You had started getting involved then?
Yes, I had. And primarily my sister was also in charge of
Okay.
the school then. And around 2003, 2004, we hit about 200. 2008 onwards, I got completely involved in it.
Okay.
Suddenly, I felt this was my calling. All the elements of social relevance that I was always looking for,
And all your passions.
all my passions, suddenly
They just found home in this school.
yes,
right?
yes.
It's a very uncanny thing that happened. I don't think you would have planned your life like this until that point of time. But when it happened, perhaps it all came together.
It actually did.
Just tell a little bit about
Yes.
that. But yeah, I mean, continue the story.
No,
as well,
no,
sorry.
it so happened that, in fact, my mother at that point, she had taken voluntary retirement,
Okay.
and she was involved in it. So in a way, my father was retired too. He got involved partly. My mother got involved. My sister was involved. At that point, my mother, once I think, suffered a little fracture, and she could not take over. At that point, I came in just to fill the space.
Fill the gap. Okay.
And once I started interacting with the children, and in the truest sense, I saw the dreams in their eyes. I saw the sparkle in their presence and what they were.
And you probably saw a part of you in
A
each
huge
of them.
part of me.
In each
I
of them.
immediately connected to many of the students then.
So this was about 2008, 9, 10?
2008, 9.
I had met you then once, and you told me something. You said, look at these kids in the first standard. In my mind, they are the ones I'll be investing all or most of my energy with, because the schooling is a 10-year process at the minimum. So the results of these efforts will actually be seen 10 years from now when they actually graduate out of the 10th standard. So this is a 10-year journey, Shashi. It cannot be less than that.
Yeah, I don't clearly remember the words that I said to you, but yes, I can imagine me having said that. For me, more than the entrepreneurial side of the school, it is the personal association which takes over. And maybe I'm a little selfish that way too, because I get to see myself in all of these children. And of course, they always invest a lot of their energies into us as well. There is an exchange of personality happening all times.
So you were saying it was about 200 in the year 2008, 9, 10.
Yeah.
And then?
And
what
then
happened?
slowly we could leapfrog to the number of 400 and struggle from there on, and then pushing it to 500, and then about 600 to 700.
Okay.
So that was the limit, in fact, that we could handle, and we were happy with that too.
And I think you didn't want to grow beyond that in
Yes.
numbers.
Yes.
What was the reason for that?
Of course, the most important thing is then the personal involvement that we can give obviously is going to reduce.
And you also did not look at it as a business,
Yeah.
that you will open multiple branches, you will do this at scale.
Yeah.
That thought, did it
Yes,
occur in your mind?
see, that requires a different mindset altogether. And there have been many successful entrepreneurs who have done that too. And hats off to them. It's not an easy job. Personally, for me, if at all, not that I haven't thought of that idea, but the moment multiple branches are open, then I have to invest my energies in multiple places in managing the school itself. My personal involvement with the children
that
is
gets
obviously going
diluted.
to reduce. It's going to take a beating. And I wasn't ready for that.
So of the 500 to 700 students that would be there in the school, do you think you would know the names of roughly about half the people?
Almost everyone. And especially classes 7 to 10, with whom I directly interact every single day. Their voices, I can recognize them, just their voice too.
What do you teach?
I teach from standard 7 to standard 10 English,
English.
because once I took over completely, that's what I realized. Most times it's their inability to use English successfully kind of mars their success in the future,
Okay.
in spite of the good knowledge they have. So that's what I wanted to pay attention towards.
Okay.
So I took over the teaching of English. And of course, standard 10, I also helped them with mathematics and science. Many points I've taught Hindi and Kannada. So
And drama and music?
drama, yes. Theatre, yes. Theatre, we've done music,
Sports?
sports, hiking.
किमत्र वचनोक्तेन शास्त्रकोटि शतेन च शतेन च दुर्लभ चित्तविश्रान्ति दुर्लभ चित्तविश्रान्ति विना गुरुकृपा.
But I'll just take a moment to go back to the journey of the school. What have been the milestones of this school that you are most proud about?
To start with, just raising the numbers itself are milestones in itself. Under huge challenge, with no loans from anywhere, no grants from anywhere, it's all our personal savings, what our earnings have been invested back into the school to make it grow. But the real milestones, I would say, is we just started with 4 rooms here, and then to expand it and finally have about 30 classrooms is a huge challenge. And the biggest of all achievements would be the success stories of the children who have studied here.
Okay.
Coming from backgrounds where their parents were completely not educated, coming from backgrounds where they have been with broken families, coming from backgrounds where they hadn't seen the face of any of their parents, even coming from an orphanage and then studying here and then becoming something in their lives. Yes, these have been the real success stories and real milestones.
Any particular success story that you remember?
Oh yes, easily one of my students, his parents were not very well to do, and unfortunately for him, just about 2 months prior to his standard 10 examination, he loses his father. And then for him to have the willpower to continue, the easiest thing then would have been just to go find a job and try to support
Especially
the family.
given, I think, his surroundings and environment.
Yes, but then he went on to finish his standard 10 and then got into PU. Just imagine in PU he loses his mother. And then absolutely no support whatsoever, no support system. And then my wife and I, we kind of took him as our adopted son and then supported him with, of course, help from a lot of our other well-meaning friends as well. And then for him to then get into engineering and then finish his engineering, in fact, he used to take tuitions through that. He wanted to work and fund his own studies as well. Of course, you can't do engineering that way, but he could partly at least fund himself. So he would teach children, take tuitions, and finally he finished his engineering, but he wants to get into pure science research, which we are trying to encourage him as well in. He said he wants to take a year's break. Then he said the best thing for him to do is, okay, try and come here and teach our children for a while. So this year he is a teacher with us. Another student, once when she was in standard 7, we were doing a reading in the class, and the story was about a play, a Myanmarese play, where a child is eating something that the mother has prepared. The father has gone to the fields and the mother has gone out too. The child, she was reading it and suddenly she collapsed. And I hadn't the slightest clue what happened, and quite scared too. And then finally she was carried, and finally. Later, when spoken to her, I realized that she was coming from an orphanage and she hadn't any parents. And her father, in fact, died at his workplace. He was a construction worker. So suddenly she was reading about a child's life who had his parents and nice things to eat and his friends coming in. I think it hit her at that point. So
She came out of that?
well, of course, yes, she did, and she would address me as father.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then yes, even to this day when she meets me, I mean, she addresses me the same way. Yes, today she's gone into the HR field and she's doing very well, and I'm very, very happy about her.
There are kids here who may have come from broken families. There are kids here who have come and who have lost their parents, and they have seen their parents in the teachers.
Yes.
right? So this relationship is not transactional. In any case, the relation between a teacher and student is not transactional.
Yes.
But it goes far beyond that. It transcends all our known parameters between a teacher and a kid, right? I think it becomes far too personal.
Yeah, it is.
Does it also become uncomfortable then, teaching the kids sometimes?
It has. It has. But we know what our final goal has to be. It is to bring these children out of whatever rut they are stuck in. So finally, in spite of the discomfort that we feel, we have to go ahead. And also let them realize that it is okay.
Life is okay.
Yes, anything that's not working for them at this point in their life is okay. Because finally, we all grow out of things.
And I just noticed something. When you refer to the children of the school, you always say my children. Is that a conscious choice or is it subconsciously?
Yeah, I don't know. It just comes naturally because they are my children. They get along very well with my wife as well. So they are a huge part of our lives. Even the ones, even after passing out of school, wherever they are, whenever they find time, they come back and we catch up and we are more like friends.
जब कभी ऐसे कोई मस्ताना निकले अपनी धुन में दीवाना शाम सुहानी बन जाते हैं दिन इंतजार में रुक जाना कभी हार के कांटों पे चल के मिलेंगे सारे बाहर के ओ राही 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 ओ राही.
So will you say that the school is now stable, it will continue to grow, it'll start doing even better? I mean, you're already confident, you know what are the challenges ahead of you, or do you still worry sometimes? How am I going to survive this year and the year after that? How am I going to ensure that everyone is paid well, that you probably make some money for your own livelihood? Do these thoughts occur to you or have you crossed that stage?
Well, I believe that I had crossed this stage and COVID hit us like it hit the whole world. Yes, that was a very challenging period, not knowing where the finances are going to be generated from. But we got through COVID too. We have survived COVID. Now the spirit is that, okay, yes, I can take anything in this world.
There have been no private enterprises, corporates who have come to help you at any part of?
In the past, yes.
There have been.
There have been, not per se as a corporate entity, but individuals have come forward.
Okay.
And they have done. And even now, there are individuals who are helping a student here and a student there. Some of our friends who have been helping a student here and a student there. So it has been going on. But like I said, we have survived COVID. Now, nothing can take us down. Yes, it has hit our numbers again, so it has reduced. It has come to around, I think, somewhere between 400 to 500. But yes, we are managing. Fee collection was a little difficult, knowing the background of the parents as well. Yes, there are parents who are able to afford and they have been paying too, but there are many who aren't able to. So somehow the balance sheet has been maintained and we are taking it further.
You had said once to me that if you had willed to cater through this school to a segment of the society which is slightly more prosperous and needs the same level of education in any case, then to be honest, you will not have any challenges at all. In fact, you can be a prosperous school, but something is stopping you from doing that.
Certainly. I guess the social relevance part of it. If I am to do what most other people can do, yes, I'm not taking anything out of their efforts because they are finally educating
Absolutely,
children.
absolutely.
Educating
By
children,
any means.
the next generation. So there's no way, even if it's an international school charging in millions, I'm sure they are doing a good job wherever they are. But for me, the social relevance was related to what my father's dream was as well. Both my parents for that matter, I think, for example, I can comfortably say our generation, all our parents came from very, very humble backgrounds. So my mother tells me stories about how she only had maybe, I think, 2 sets of clothes. My father, similar. So they could wear one, wash another, wear it the next day, and go on with their lives. So I, having come from that background, I think I find satisfaction in the fact that I'm doing something for the generation, this present generation, who might be there from the same background too. What Baba Sahib said, sincerity is the sum of all moral qualities. I want to be sincere. I have to tell myself, and I have to reawaken myself towards this. Yes, if I'm sincere about this, that I'm wanting to do something for a certain section of the society, I'm happy to do it. And until now, I feel I have been successful.
So people who know you outside of the boundaries of the school, or perhaps even people who are with the school, they don't associate this seriousness with the image of Kaveri that they know, right? There is this other side of you. It has this immense energy that explodes in hundreds of other fields, right? And maybe dozens of other fields, to be realistic. So I want to now talk about that journey. What's your background? Where did you start? How was your upbringing? How was your family life?
First of all, my name, Kavirappa, it's a Coorg name.
Okay.
I'm not a Kodava. My naming ceremony was done in Coorg.
Naming ceremony,
Yes,
okay.
my parents met there, so they decided to give me a Kodava name. Also, my father was a devotee of Raghavendra Swami.
Okay.
So he gave me that name as well. So I have 2 names,
Kavirappa.
Kavirappa, Raghavendra. My mother, yes, was and still is a very tough lady.
Okay.
She wanted to ensure that we would not be complacent under the idea that, yes, my father is a police officer. My mother would literally pull us out of our beds at 5 o'clock in the morning and said, oh, go out, go for a run, come back.
Okay.
And including sweeping the house, to cleaning our own plates, to washing our clothes, to bringing water from outside, from the bore wells to the taps, to everything we did ourselves, including sweeping the front yard.
And this was not typical of police officers'
Oh,
household.
not at all. Not at all. Even with quite a few of my friends too, whose parents were not in the police department for that matter, but who were well off, none of them did this. Today, whatever we are, I think it is because of my mother.
Okay.
Yeah. My father was, yes, a very strong, solid figure behind, but there have been days and months that we hardly even saw his face. Because he was such a workaholic, which is very trendy word to be used now, but he, like most of the people from that generation, they never called their work as work, they called it duty.
Duty.
So most times, for him, it was never like, okay, ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ the duty ಹೋಗಬೇಕು, because he never came home. He would always have a small room very close to his police station. So he would go change right there and get back to work. So he was that kind of a person. So he was always a strong person, a strong personality behind us.
But how did arts come into you?
My maternal grandmother was a musician of sorts. Well, she could sing, she could play the harmonium a bit. So my mother was a decent singer too, and she would literally hold me by the cuff of my neck and teach me songs to go and compete in competitions, participate in competitions at school, right from my childhood. So through her, music got into us, and the radio would be on, switched on all the time, and we were programmed. A lot of imprinting happened. As we grew, we started to look at arts in new light as well, and started to explore more in different genres, trying to understand them, trying to appreciate them. My father, that way, he was a big fan of both the old Hindi music as well as Western music. He was into pop as well. He would listen to them. So a lot of pop of the 70s and 80s, I have to thank him for that.
So, a police officer from the hinterland of North Karnataka
Yes.
listening to Western pop in
Yes.
the 1980s.
Yes.
That must be something. Do you want to hum another song maybe now?
Of course. Why not?
ನೀನೇ ನನ್ನ ಕಾವ್ಯ ಕನ್ನಿಕೆ ಓಡುವುದೇತಕ್ಕೆ ಬಾರೇ ಸನಿಹಕ್ಕೆ ನೀನೇ ನನ್ನ ಕಾವ್ಯ ಕನ್ನಿಕೆ कुछ तो नाजुक मिजाज है हम भी कुछ तो नाजुक मिजाज है हम भी और ये चोट भी नहीं है अभी कोई ताज़ा हवा चली है अभी दिल में एक लहर से उठी है अभी
So, where did you study, by the way? I mean, while all this is going on, you are not a musician during your day.
No.
Right? Music was passion.
Yes.
But you're going through formal schooling as well.
I started off in Frank Anthony's FAPS in Alsur because we lived there then. Then we moved to a place called Gangenahalli, which is Ganganagar now, near Hebal. And there I joined a small school called the Modern Public School, where I had a fantastic teacher called Madam Lalita who supported me. And after that I got into UAS campus, Hebal. And that was like a dream space with hectares of government land available to us at our disposal, and we could walk around in semi-wilderness and still be safe. I had some fantastic teachers there too, Madam Vijaya, Savitri, Vijaya Priyakumar, one more, Madam Lalita there. It was a great learning experience there.
Okay.
And then I got into MES College, the cream of education of Bangalore, right, at MES. It was the hotbed of culture and action. There slowly got into more music and got into theatre as well, got into dramas, both acting as well as getting involved in other spheres of drama as well.
ತೇಲುವ ಈ ಮೋಡದ ಮೇಲೆ ನೀನಿಂತ ಹಾಗಿದೆ ನಸು ನಗುತ್ತ ನಲಿ ನಲಿದು ನನ್ನ ಕೂಗಿದಂತಿದೆ ತೇಲುವ ಬಾಗಸದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಂದು ಹೇಳಿದಂತಿದೆ ತನುವೆಲ್ಲ ಹಗುರಾಗಿ ತೂರಾಡುವಂತಿದೆ ಆಡುವಂತಿದೆ ಚೆಲುವೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿರುವೆ ಮನವ ಕಾಡುವ ರೂಪಸಿಯೇ ಬಯಕೆಯ ಬಳ್ಳಿಯ ನಗುವ ಹೂವಾದ ಪ್ರೇಯಸಿಯೇ ಬಯಕೆಯ ಬಳ್ಳಿಯ ನಗುವ ಹೂವಾದ ಪ್ರೇಯಸಿ ನೀನು ಎಲ್ಲಿರುವೆ ಮನವ ಕಾಡುವ ರೂಪಸಿಯೇ
So, this was your 11th and 12th standard?
Yes.
First PU and second
Yes.
PU, right?
Yes.
But as I said, I mean, you were also doing good academically, or were you a poor student then?
No, I was a good student, I would say. I would not say excellent, but yes, I was always good. And from there on, as was the course designed for all of middle class in the 90s, you had to finish your PU and then get into engineering or medicine.
Do you remember your entrance rank of
Well,
engineering?
it was a very good rank. But then, for me, I got into engineering simply because all my friends did.
Okay. You're a little shy of revealing the rank?
Well, it's pointless. It was a good rank.
Okay.
I got a merit seat. And then I got into UVCE, Vishwesharaya College for Engineering, KR Circle,
Yeah, the same college. Okay.
same college, yes, where almost all of the brains came in. So I had a good opportunity to rub shoulders with the cream again. Maybe in my third sem, very quickly realized was I wasn't cut out for engineering. I had
Did
to-
you drop out?
No, I did not drop out.
Because you didn't have the permission to do that.
Certainly, yes.
Yeah. You never thought. of-
It would have been embarrassing to drop out. Yes, you've taken this task, finish it. For me, the regimentalization of our existence was quite suffocating, to be frank. So it's fair to say I wasn't cut out for it. And maybe I could have forced myself, pushed myself, but for me, life had to be a celebration. Every day had to be. It was not just about traversing from one examination to another, one internals to another examination, come back, get ready again. So for me, it was, I think, way too much.
What all did you do apart from music?
A lot of trekking and hiking, and a lot of reading.
Okay.
So
And sports?
sports, certainly, yes. The college had sports, thankfully. We did a lot of sports, but it gave us a lot of free time through which we could watch a lot of movies, learn a lot about the world. Like I mentioned, reading. It gave me enough time to get into reading itself.
So what did you read then? What do you read now, typically?
Well, it started off with magazines. I would devour magazine from the front to the back, wrapper to say.
Okay.
A lot of fiction written by, of course, Frederick Forsyth, who is everybody's favorite, whoever loves thrillers, and Tom Clancy, and then Richard Bach, who kind of opened my eyes towards a different philosophy of life and existence that led to Paulo Coelho, and then Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Then finally found James Michener, a fantastic writer of historical fiction. Then found James Clavell, and so on. The journey never stopped. Found more and more authors, great thinkers who expressed themselves in a million ways.
And in Kannada?
I read Shivarama Karanta, I read Masti's short stories. They were brilliant. And then ended up with Purnachandra Tejasvi, and ever since, okay, he has been my favorite. From the later generation, Vasudhendra is a fantastic writer too.
Do you still read?
No day passes by without reading. In fact, a godsend for reading was the period of COVID lockdown. And then I found an author called Louis L'Amour, who was one of the most vibrant personalities of all times, I have to say. He did hundreds of things in his life, and through all that found time to pen in more than 100 books as well.
Wow.
So he wrote a lot about the Wild West of the US of A. And I discovered him, and through a period of 6 months, read about 70 of his books. That was maddening.
Really?
Yes. Every day, again, you get to find a book, a new author, like what funnily Groucho Marx said, outside of a dog, a book is a man's best friend. And inside of a dog, it's too dark to read. So, yes, books have been, like it should be, I would imagine, with everybody. They have been my personal soulmates.
Yours is a day, apart from what you do in this school, a lot of your energy and time is spent in music, right? So take me through a typical day. What do you listen to from morning to evening?
Other than the practicing part of music, where I have to give my energy towards playing the guitar, practicing Hindustani vocals, and practicing Konokol, the Carnatic rhythm systems. Every time I listen to music, it could be from any genre. Music is not bound by language. So I listen to lots of various genres. At the same time, listen to music from various countries too. A lot of Kannada music with the greatest of music directors of Kannada industry like Vijay Bhaskar, T.G. Lingappa, Hamsalekha. A lot of these musicians have given fantastic music in the Kannada language, and a lot of Hindi music obviously, and a lot of ghazals too, with the million shades of emotions and moods being brought in through poetry in various languages. I do listen to these languages as well, and slowly I started developing a taste for Tamil music and Telugu music as well, and particularly music directors like Ilayaraja. So my life goes through listening to all these kinds of music, but primarily I do listen to a lot of Kannada and Hindi.
Any favorite artists across all genres?
Rafi Saab is one of my personal favorites. Then of course Kishore Da too. And in ghazals, Jagjit and Mehdi Hasan. And when it comes to playback singing, if you have to take whole of India into consideration, of course Lata Mangeshkar ranks right up there. But if I have to really go into the deepest part of my soul and heart, I have to pick up SPB's name any day. SPB and Janaki Amma, the two of them.
This thing about this cosmopolitanism, right? And the word cosmopolitan means that someone who is exposed to lots of different ideas, someone who is eclectic in some ways, right? Someone who has evolved and matured. Sometimes I wonder whether this is a very unique trait, this cosmopolitan exposure that we had while growing up in Bangalore during 80s and 90s, whether it was a very unique trait of Kannadigas, of Karnataka. Does it sound strange to you?
Not at all. We are very proud of this aspect that we Kannadigas are very welcoming. So we are welcoming of people, languages and cultures too. So that includes music to books to everything. So it is not at all surprising, and in fact most of my friends who have grown up with me, they are the same too. They listen to all kinds of music, they are exposed to all kinds of movies, all kinds of languages, so it is not at all surprising.
You have this personality which is multifaceted, which does and indulges in hundreds of things, and you have this job as an educator, a teacher. And as you said, in a very succinct way in the beginning of the conversation, somehow all these talents have found their home in this school. What plans do you have for the school? That's my question number one, and maybe you can connect the remaining questions as well. Second, what would you hope to have more from the student community, from the community of parents who send their wards here, or the system around you? How do you see the future panning out?
I remember, apart from Asimov's short stories and science fiction, where a teacher, when traveling in a spaceship, gives a certain solution for a major problem to be solved. And when asked how he knew that, he said, well, a teacher has to know bits and pieces of almost everything in the world. That's when he can interact with the children very well. So it's the same thing. So whatever I have learned through my life, well, to be given a title for that, it would be a jack of all. But then when you're a teacher, you need to be a jack of all, because you're communicating with kids with millions of different interests. So that has always helped me, and I'm using the same here. And personally, I would like to take this forward for as long as I can.
You don't make grand plans for the school? You don't have grand plans? Or
grand plans in terms of what facilities I can give the children, what more I can do for them in the existing infrastructure. Yes, we keep on planning, we keep on revising and redesigning our ideas as well. And
you're far more focused on the exposures that...
Certainly. Every child who comes here should get varied exposure, and almost all that we can give them. And what they make out of them, it's their destiny.
Is it also fair for me to say this, and I'm probably kind of emphasizing this over and over again, you're someone who takes life as it comes and just somehow adapts to that life and tries to make the most out of it, rather than someone who has these milestones in mind where you have to reach?
most times, yes, it is serendipity, no doubts about it. But having said that, we do carve out some ideas and hope to achieve them. We kind of earmark some goals with a certain time frame and we work towards it. Something like COVID happens, okay, and then everything's down the drain. So that's out of our control. But we always plan too. But on a personal basis, yes, for me, I've always been serendipitous, okay, and I love to live that way. For me, every day has to be a celebration, and that's how it's going to be. Whether I'm learning or resting, okay, it is still a celebration.
Any messages to your students?
I always tell them this, okay, whatever you do, please give it your 100%. You want to play? Play 100%. You want to study? Study 100%. You want to sleep? Sleep 100%. You want to eat? Eat 100%.
And to the parents? Just allow them to
Parents,
do all this?
please let them be. That's one thing I think to all parents of the world. Yes, we have to, as parents, okay, be the guiding light to our children. We cannot let them go astray, okay, and then hope that they find something fantastic and become wonderful. No, that doesn't work. We have to instill values, we have to guide them, but after that, there is a certain freedom, a certain latitude we have to offer them. If we micromanage every small thing, then no, that is not childhood at all.
And what would you hope for from the system around you? From government, from people, from society?
Well, the government is working on new ideas as well, and apparently they are working on a system which is going to change the whole education system itself, and we have to just wait and see. But having said that, whatever is being offered to the children, I personally believe, whether it is difficult to assimilate or not so difficult, I think the truth should be presented. Especially when we talk about history of our country, the truth should be presented to the children.
And you think it's going in that direction?
Until now, well, I cannot say it has been. Hopefully, in the future, we walk that path.
Thanks, Kaveri. This made a wonderful conversation. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we did this finally.
Hey, na 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 na. Hey, na 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 na. ತಪ್ಪಿದಾಗ ದಾರಿ ಬಂತು ನನ್ನ ಕಾಲಿಗೆ, ತಾಯಿ ಹೆಸರಾಡಿದಾಗ ನನ್ನ ನಾಲಿಗೆ. ತಪ್ಪಿದಾಗ ದಾರಿ ಬಂತು ನನ್ನ ಕಾಲಿಗೆ, ತಾಯಿ ಹೆಸರಾಡಿದಾಗ ನನ್ನ ನಾಲಿಗೆ. ತಪ್ಪಿದಾಗ ದಾರಿ ಬಂತು ನನ್ನ ಕಾಲಿಗೆ, ತಾಯ ಹೆಸರಾಡಿದಾಗ ನನ್ನ ನಾಲಿಗೆ. ತಾನಾಗೆ ನನಗಾಗೆ ತಾನಾಗೆ ತಾನಾಗೆ ನಕ್ಕಳೋ ಮಹಾಕಾಳಿ, ನಕ್ಕಳೋ ಮಹಾಕಾಳಿ, ನಕ್ಕಳೋ ಮಹಾಕಾಳಿ. ನಿಂತಳೋ ಮೈತಾಳಿ, ನಿಂತಳೋ ಮೈತಾಳಿ, ನಕ್ಕಳೋ ಮಹಾಕಾಳಿ. ಹೇ ನಾನ 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 ಹೇ ನಾನ 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 ನಾನ.
Hope you liked today's conversation. If you did, please encourage us by clicking on the thumbs up button and subscribing to our channel, and sharing this conversation with your family and friends. This is your host Shashi, signing off on this episode of Life Unbounded. See you again very soon.